mystery and horror, the air itself is filled with monsters.
Children of the night, what music they make. He's alive! He's alive!
Well, hello, all you monster fiends, and welcome to part 2 of Tom Savini. It's two. I am your master of ceremony, Sam, and I am joined, as always, by Dan from Bleeding Marvelous. Say hello, Dan.
Hello, Dan.
Hi, Dan.
Hi.
Hi. So
Hi.
yes, it's not a person. It's not a thing. Well, it is a person, but not a monster person. It's a person who makes the monsters. So we are doing Tom Savini. We're picking right up from where we left off last time. So I'll do the disclaimer. If you want to actually catch up first and watch part 1 before watching part 2, that would be good. But if not, and you've already seen it, we'll get on. So everything discussed in today's episode is our opinions and our opinions alone. If you'd like to discuss anything from today's episode, please come and join us in the comment section where we can have an open discussion. What we won't have is anyone coming for us and telling us our opinions are wrong. We can all agree to disagree in fandom. So let's keep it fun, keep it kind, and keep the toxic behavior out of nerdism. First week in a long time of getting that right. Didn't say it right last week. Didn't say it right the week before. And I fucking wrote this.
You see, it's just one of those things. It either rolls off the tongue or it doesn't.
It's either like, if I overthink it, I can't remember it.
Mm.
And I always wanted, because I always saw these YouTubers who were like, disclaimer. And I was like, oh, I'm just gonna see it. I'll just see a disclaimer. So disclaimer out the way with. We're at 1980. We're going back. 1980 and Friday the 13th. I can't remember how much we covered on Friday the 13th, actually.
A bit. I must be honest, I went back and I rewatched it over the weekend. Put a post up on the page about Kevin Bacon's Budgie Smugglers.
Amazing. The character in themselves.
Someone put, and I think it was a guy called Tony who follows the page, put on there, more like hummingbird smugglers. And I was just like, I've not zoomed in that far, but you know, Tony.
Maybe I will next time.
You do you, my friend.
Well, on the last one, I actually wrote down the note on my notes, the kill count on Friday the 13th, 10 in total.
It's not that savage.
No.
You know, I mean, obviously, when you add up Jason's from start to finish, which we will do one day, not today, he must be somewhere. This is the whole Claude Rains thing, yeah.
But take these off because these are not Jason's kills. These are
these are Pamela's, aren't they?
These are Pamela Voorhees kills. But we will. That is something that we're looking to do later on. Is kill counts. Can we beat Claude Rains?
No. No.
No one has on our list, all of our episodes we've done, and I think we're up to what, 16? This is 16. So. Yeah. No one's beat Claude Rains. He is still superior master who sits on my shelf.
Lord of the kill count.
Lord of the kill counts.
Jesus.
But yeah, there's 10 kills in this. Pamela's is included.
Right. But
the reason I mentioned the kill count for is because every kill obviously had its makeup done, which was done by our friend, Mr. Savini. I say our friend in the loosest terms. Every single one had something to do with the neck.
Mm-hmm.
Apart from axe in the face. Yeah, axe in the face. That's it.
And Jason. And Jason when he comes out of the water. So, yeah. Honestly, I love the way that he sets up the headshots.
Yeah.
I mean, you can see it when you look at it with the knowledge when you have it. But 1980 was the year I was born, so this is 43 years ago. This film came out, and so you're talking. People tend to forget, and I know the majority of people won't. But there was no CGI. This is not like this is all practical effects, and he had to figure out a way to make it look visceral, make it look real, because he always said one of his, I'm going to paraphrase one of his quotes that he said when he was working in Vietnam, as we discussed in the first one, as the photographer. He said that if he doesn't get the same feeling from a makeup he does than he got from taking a photo of the most disgusting, gruesome body scenes, then he knows he hasn't done his job right. So he said he gets this feeling in his gut, and he doesn't know how to explain it. He's not sure if it's like a sicky feeling or like a he doesn't want to explain it as like an enjoyment feeling, but something like a I can't remember how he phrased it, but
I don't know if this helps in any way, but when I see something that is grim, I go cold inside.
Maybe that's it, because he didn't really. Trying to think back of how he did it. I've watched so many videos on YouTube and interviews with Tom over the last 3 weeks, with a little break to do the thing in. But yeah, I mean, there's so many nods to so many movies, to so many things that we've already covered that we can tie into Tom Savini already, and we're like 16 episodes in. It's scary how much that man has had an influence.
Oh, massively. If we really picked it apart, we could really put in either what he has either been influenced by or what he has influenced.
Yeah, 100%.
Because if we started the Universal monsters, there's his initial influence, and then just go and ticking along forward, it goes into where that's an amazing thing, man. That's an amazing feat to be able to see a person's career and watch their inspiration to them watching them becoming the inspiration.
It's reading in his loosely autobiography, maybe. It's just called Savini. It's done well because what it does is it has all of his like interview section at the beginning, like his thoughts and feelings on stuff. Then it goes to a breakdown on all of his movies he's done. But then at the end, he's done journals when he was in certain films. Oh. So he's journaled when he was in Planet Terror. He's journaled when he was in the Django. And
he's Django.
Yeah. And you know what the part was that they called him? Quentin Tarantino gave him the part of Tracker Cheney.
Why can't I love Django? Why can't I remember?
He was one of the, and I hate using the word, but it is used in the film, one of the slave trackers. You know, with the dogs.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
And that's actually what I wanted to show you, but I was going to save it, but it makes sense now we've brought it up now. This is a picture.
I'm sorry, have I ruined your timing?
No, not at all. That's the picture of Tom when he was in Django. And one of I like calling it that. Sorry.
I love it.
And that was when his mate got bitten on the arse cheek by one of the dogs, and he had to go to hospital because he had massive holes in his buttocks.
If you are listening to this on a podcast platform, please go to YouTube and see this picture. It's so funny.
But yeah, he talks about his experiences like from a first-hand position, and like how much respect he got on set, and how he was so confused by people knowing who he was still like when he did Planet Terror, when he was doing Django and all those, he honestly didn't think he thought he was just going on to do a part, you know, and he got like rounds of applauses for things when he did it, and like he was like, I can't fathom. He said, I can't put into words how grateful I am to do what I do, because I at my age, because he's now 76, I want to say, he said, you just don't expect anything, you know, it is what it is.
Yeah. And do you know what though? Does he realize the people that he works with now? They're all like, I mean, he's done a few with Robert Rodriguez, because he did Machete. Did Machete?
Machete Kills.
Yeah, but he did the trailer was the initial starting point, because that was part of the Grindhouse experience, which I lived for it. I was living in that moment of Grindhouse. And
Dusk Till Dawn.
Yeah, he's working with. Oh, God, he's working with movie fans.
Mhm.
He's working with people who have been inspired by him and inspired by his work. Oh, I just love that. Like, makes my heart all warm.
But when he surrounds himself with the same people unintentionally, he
Mhm.
doesn't even know he's doing it most of the time. Like he was talking about. I saw him do an interview with Bob Elsmore, the guy who played Leatherface in Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, but Bob was the stunt Leatherface,
Right.
and I want to say Bill, gone blank on his surname, but Bill was the Leatherface cast man, and Bob Elsmore was the stunt version of Leatherface in the second one. And when they were doing this interview, it was at Fright Falls in Canada somewhere. I think it was a big horror convention they have up there, and they were being interviewed by Rue Morgue.
Right.
And they were both talking, and they were saying, like, because Bob was being directed for the stunts by Tom, as well as having his makeup done by Tom, as well as having like, and he said it was such a weird experience. He said because it was such a surreal experience, and he was like saying about how much he'd followed Tom's work up until that point. And I want to say it came out. Now I do have a rough release date. Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2,
1987.
Yeah, which oddly I saw. Now I think this is bullshit, but you know when you're looking through and you go try to find a UK release for Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, it was giving me 2001. It wasn't released over here till 2001. I was like, that can't be right.
That probably is right if you think about it.
But that seems a big jump, doesn't it? 13, 14 years before it was released in the UK.
Massive jump. I do want to get to Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 because I do have some feelings on that.
We'll come back to Chop Top.
Chop Top's not the issue.
But as for the Jason one, the gag that he loved doing, which he learnt to do when he was on Martin, which was the stand-up gag.
Yes. The blood, is it the blood splatter one, or
this is the one for Kevin through the throat, where he has them practically standing up with their head poking through the bed, and then they build the bed in front, and then they build the fake body in front so that they can pull off the gag where he's sticking the arrow through Kevin's throat. And technically it was Kevin pushing it through himself because he was like the only person who could get the position right under the bed because of where his head was.
Right.
But he used that in quite a few things. When he was working on one of the movies for Dario Argento, Dario had the specific note that when the head rolled off after it had been cut off, it had to keep saying, Nicholas, 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 as it was rolling off, right? And Tom was like, how the fucking hell am I supposed to do that? You know, it's like, if I do a severed head, it'd have to have like, it'd have to be automated in some way, animated, and not like cartoon animated, but like be able to move. And he was like, how am I going to do that? But then I've got to get the voice and I've got to get the mouth in sync and get the actress. So he thought, right, I'll use the similar technique that I used in Friday the 13th, where I shoot her on a black board and make her wear a turtleneck up until the point of where I want to put the wounds, like the edge of where her head was cut off. And she's got a blackboard behind her, and we just have her turning round and round and round and round saying Nicholas, Nicholas, Nicholas. So that's all it was done. And Dario walked in and went, no, what is this? I want the head on the floor. And he's like going, trust me, trust me, trust me. People don't know the difference between it being filmed like this or it being filmed like this.
Yeah.
He said, so just trust what I'm doing, trust the process and see how it works. And to this day, that is one of his favourite ways of showing a severe head wound, is by filming it so they're practically sitting up.
Doesn't that sound really similar to how they did Claude Rains in The Invisible Man?
Yeah,
doesn't it? Like, because they use black velvet in that, and but doesn't it? Just hearing you talking about it, I'm just getting a load of like invisible. Has Claude Rains just totally taken over from the Frankenstein reference? Actually, he hasn't, because I can see Frankenstein right behind you. All right, Boris.
I've got my Creeper here from Creep Show, because obviously Tom did Creep Show, and I rewatched that as well recently, and I was actually really glad I did, because it's been such a long time since I've seen the movie. I've watched the TV shows that Greg Nicotero worked on.
Oh, see, I've not seen them, and I do want to watch them, but I get confused between Creepshow and Twilight Zone because they're around the same age and they're shot very similar, but not. I understand there's a difference, but there is some stories that I could say was in Creepshow, but in actual fact it wasn't. It was in Twilight Zone.
Yeah, I get that with Tales from the Crypt.
Yes,
because the Crypt Keeper for me is who I always think of. I don't think of the Creeper from Creep Show.
Yes,
I think of the Crypt Keeper, but that was from Tales from the Crypt and the Creep Show. But Creep Show was a hell of a movie. Jumping from that, it was 1982. Yeah. So
sorry, I'm not being a smart ass. I literally wrote down all of his movies that he did makeup in and the years next to them as well.
I'm glad you have, because my notes are chaotic.
So yes, I'm not being a smart ass and thinking that I know everything. I literally had to write them down.
No, these are crazy people, chaotic notes. These they're all over the bloody place.
Well, I tell you what I did notice when I was writing my notes down. He took a hell of a break in makeup. Hell of a break. 2002, and his next work is 2011.
Yeah. Do you know why?
No.
He was bringing up his daughter.
Oh, children.
Yeah, just a bit was. When I know we alluded to it in the last one, he had a child with his wife was pregnant when he went off to Vietnam.
Mm-hmm.
And when he came back, he didn't have a child, and his wife had given the child up for adoption. But he didn't meet her till she was in her late 30s, early 40s. And it turned out she was always a fan of his. She knew who he was, but she didn't know that was her dad.
Oh, no.
But some genealogy thing, and they chased it, and now Elizabeth is his firstborn daughter. Then he had Lon. Is it Lon Savini or Cheney Savini?
Lon. There is a Cheney Savini, but he is the son of Lon Savini.
That's it. Yeah, so Lon was his son, and then Leah is his daughter. And Leah was the one that his third or fourth wife... been
married a few times.
Yeah, 6, I think. But there's a custody thing where he was away filming a film, and it's in Smoke and Mirrors, so... You know, if you ever watch that documentary, it explains
so good
the gist of it. But his wife was found, the daughter was found wandering the streets, and the custody was taken away from the mother.
I remember that.
And one of his best friends kept custody of Leah until he was back from the shoot, because he couldn't get back.
Yeah.
And so he decided to give it a break, all of acting and all that sort of stuff, to raise Leah to an age. But then Leah got pregnant at 16, and she had her first son, his first grandkid, and he took over as like the father figure for his first grandkid. So
if you ever get a chance to see his Instagram, it's just nothing but devotion to his family. He's
got two grandkids from Leah. But yeah, he dotes on Leah a lot in that documentary.
Yeah,
you can see he genuinely.
It's been a while since I watched it. I think it was on Shudder. I watched it, and they've taken it off now. I'm sure of it. Shudder do some great documentaries. But going back to Friday the 13th and the neck torture.
Yes.
Was Pamela Voorhees' head the same kind of process as what he'd done with Kevin Bacon?
I saw some behind the scenes of it, but I didn't. The problem that I think you even said this, all the behind the scenes stuff you can find from that movie
is about the cast.
Yeah, it's not really about processes.
It's really hard to find a documentary that doesn't. The only one that did, out of the ones that I watched, was Dawn of the Dead, because you can't talk about Dawn of the Dead without talking about Tom Savini and his process. George A. Romero was literally just standing there going, action, cut. And you had Tom. Oh my God, I can't get names out. You had Tom doing the rest of it. So yeah, anything that you're watching, you're not getting processors on. You're getting some, like you got to learn about Kevin Bacon's neck and watch it happen in like what you would class as real time.
Yeah.
Like, it's such a. But I can't remember if Pamela Voorhees' head is just a roll off, because if it's just a roll off, then they don't need to use that effect.
I don't think in the end they used the footage because, excuse me, there was, I think the cut that I watched, they had, I can't remember her name. Is it Adrian? I can't, no, it's not that. Ali, something like that. The final girl in the first Friday the 13th, when she swings and cuts off Pamela's head, spoiler, I don't think in the cut I saw, you saw her head roll away.
Well, no, I can't remember. I've seen this movie 100 times now. I can't see it.
And I swear I've seen a cut where it has rolled down the road, but because I've seen a photo in the last couple of weeks where you see Betsy laying there, and she's got Pamela. She's laying there, Pamela, and she's wearing like a bag on her head, so like a black velvet black bag. So her body's just laying there, and because it's filmed at night time, that bit as well, so they can fuzz out her face because she's got the hood on, and then I'm sure there was I've seen a cast being taken of her face by Tom, so they must have used the head for something. But in the cut I saw, you just heard the dum 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 dum, and you didn't see it technically hit the floor. So
that's it. I can't remember. Like I say, I've seen Friday the 13th a bloody 100 million times, and I can't picture it in my third eye if it rolls or not, if we see it.
But what was that bloody fascination with necks though? She slit the chef lady's neck, didn't she? In the
easy access.
I suppose so. Surprise. I think it's probably the element of surprise as well. She can quickly whoop, and they don't.
Because the kills change after Friday the 13th part 1. Because obviously it's not Pamela Voorhees anymore. And I always just put it down to the fact that she couldn't do anything else. I mean, the axe in the face, that was a bit creative, but...
She wasn't strong, because she was, if you watch that fight at the end, she got pushed over more so than she was standing up, So there was no physical strength, so it all had to be surprise kills, I think, to a degree. I mean, I know... The chef girl jumped out of the car and started running off, and she surprised her because she got to her quicker than she thought, and she had her neck in. And then the next one was...
Oh, are we talking about kills on there? Because I've got a list of names.
You had that one, and then it was, I want to say that one of the lads, was it the guy? Yeah. The annoying sex pest guy?
Okay, so we first got Barry, whose stomach is stabbed.
Yes, yeah, and that was real pig entrails, because that's all Tom Savini would use, animal entrails in any entrail scene for any movie. Yeah. And
then Claudette's a neck stab.
Right.
Then Anne Phillips is a throat slash.
Yeah.
Ned, I want to keep calling him Ryerson, and it's not. It's Ned Rubenstein. But I want to keep calling him Ryerson from Groundhog Day. Hey, I'm Ned Ryerson. Throat slash. Jack Marand is a neck arrow, so that's
bacon.
Then you got the face axe. Then you got Stevie Christie with a chest stab. Then you got Bill with a throat slash, and Brenda, we don't know, and then Mrs. Voorhees, head off. Lots of heads. She did do a couple of. This is how you can class it as a slasher, because she did slash. She slashed.
She did.
Did you get a shock when it was Pamela, by the way? Like when you first ever watched it? Or did Scream spoil it for you?
Oh no,
like it did me.
I saw it years before Scream came out. Scream was 1996, wasn't it? 94, 96, so 96. So I was 16 when Scream came out, so I'd had ample time to poison my mind with that stuff. And I just kept thinking, and this is going to sound absolutely atrocious, but this is coming from a 10, 11, 12-year-old me not a 43-year-old me in 2023. This is a 10 to 12-year-old in 1990 to 1992. Why is that old lady being able to do that?
Nana, what are you doing?
So it was kind of one of those things where I was like, how's Nanny? You know, she looked like a nana to me, you know, at 10. It's like, how's she doing that? How's she, you know?
Hey, I think my grandmother wouldn't have been able to do that. No. No, Scream did spoil for me. So I was never, like, growing up, Freddie, Jason, Michael, like, they didn't interest us. I wanted, like, the obscure horror. I watched all the weird shit that my friend had. And then I got round to, I remember them putting on Friday the 3rd. No, Freddie, they would put Freddie on, and my sister was in the room. My sister, who's like 6 years younger than us. So she was like a kid, like a proper kid at the time. And I went, nah, no, fuck this. I'm not being responsible for these nightmares. Come on, we're going home. Like, I have to share a room with you. We're not doing this. I think I appreciated them more when I was older, and I've only just started to appreciate Friday the 13th as a franchise in the last year or so. And really seeing Jason is like, I think he's more of a powerhouse than Michael Myers. Sorry to say, you know, controversial opinion and everything.
No, I think the Jason narrative is far more intriguing in many ways compared to Michael, because whilst you've had the storyline with Michael, you know what's going on. He went into some sort of state and killed his sister, and they put him into a psychiatric one, depending on which version you watch. Obviously, the standard version is the canon, but if you watch the Rob Zombie one, it throws a bit more into it with the backstory.
I know what he was trying to do. I understand what he was trying to do, and I'm sure we will get into this when we do Michael Myers. But there's some things you just don't need to know. I
don't need to know about Sheree Moon fucking Zombie. That's for sure. No. And I'm sure she's a lovely lady in real life. She looks like she hugs trees and she eats grass, you know, and she loves the world, and that's lovely. But
she has no room to be in everything.
It's the nepotism knows no bounds, unfortunately, and the sad thing about it is, I will not watch the Monsters redo, reboot, remake, because I can't bring myself to do it.
I totally understand the reasons why. I totally get it. I did it because we reviewed it on here. I got a mega shock. If you go and watch our review, the majority of it is, why is Sherry Moon constantly like this? She didn't do Lily. She didn't do My Lily, but the guy who played Herman, who's also in Lords of Salem, he was fucking phenomenal. He really was.
Yeah, because he also is in 31. He's like he's one of the cohorts in 31, and
he's a Rob Zombie actor. I class him now because he's done like Monsters, and I really like Lords of Salem as well. That's the kind of horror I used to watch growing up, was the kind of like satanic-y, witchy kind of like from the 70s, you know. The Terrified of the Woman in the Trees. Let's go back to Tom.
Yes, we can go off on these tangents.
It's not a Monsters podcast if we ain't going off on a tangent. But we will come into Myers and Jason at some point. Let's skip to Creepshow.
Yes, I love me Creepshow. That I think that's up there for me for one of the most iconic movies of its time, for the sheer reason that A, George A. Romero directed, B, Tom Savini doing the special effects, and C, Stephen King wrote it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you've got the trilogy of the gods of horror.
Mm-hmm. You've got the masters of horror.
That is
right there.
And nobody, I mean, by today's standards, it's cheesy as hell, but nobody has pulled off something, in my opinion, that gives nods to so many people in one set of movies that can of its time, Ted Danson, Leslie Nielsen, Adrian Barbeau.
I'm so glad you
fucking,
mentioned them names, because again, my head is like, was that the Twilight Zone? Twilight Zone's quite light and fluffy, like in comparison to Creepshow. Like, to watch Leslie Nielsen
play straight,
dick.
play dead straight. And Father's Day is such an iconic skit. The first one.
With them.
The head on the plate of his daughter, and he's trying,
yes.
I want cake, and the zombie dude, and he's holding his daughter with a cake with a candle on her head, and that's the one with Ed Harris, who looks like his hair was starting to slip off his head at that point.
Yes.
And I want to say that was after Night Riders, because he was in Night Riders with Tom. So
1981 is Night Riders, 1982 is Creepshow.
Yeah.
I am such a huge fan of anthology horror. It's probably one of my favorite genres of horror. The VHS series is one of my favorites. I absolutely adore it. But me and my husband were on an anthology. Like, he was trying to like broaden my horizons, and he was like, right, we need to watch Creepshow, we need to watch VHS, we need to watch I've been saying it a million times, Twilight Zone. And this one was like the aesthetic of it was so pleasing to my eye. I was like, I kind of want to live here. Like, let me just stay here. The Stephen King Moss Man thing was, when I realized it was Stephen King, obviously I knew he had something to do with it, but when I realized it was him, I was like, holy shit.
I think that one was called The Lonesome Death of Geordie Ballow, that one. And
I love the fact you remembered the names.
This was the thing, right? Stephen King was supposed to have a head cast, because he was good. Tom had storyboarded it that he was going to be a complete moss man, like head all the way down to the feet.
Thing.
Yeah, and it turned out that Stephen didn't know he was claustrophobic until they were trying to do a head cast, and he literally ripped the head cast off halfway through and went, "Fuck this, fuck that, fuck you," and walked out. So but the thing that people don't realise as well about that movie is that Joe Kill, or Joe King, depending on where we're going, Stephen's son, is the little kid at the beginning. Yeah.
Okay, I feel like I know that. I feel like I did know that.
Yeah, so
it's Tom Arnold, isn't it, at the beginning?
Tom Atkins, Tom Atkins.
That's it.
And he's berating his kid, obviously, but it turns out that is Joe Hill when he was little.
Stephen King's son.
Yeah. And then I like the way they keep the comic book side of it. So when it gets to the very end, they do the flashes behind, and then there's the little speech bubbles, and it zooms out back to the magazine and flicks through the adverts to the next
story. I love it. And we get introduced into one of horror's probably most iconic creatures, is Fluffy.
Mr. Fluffy.
Fluffy, who, if you did go and watch the Grim Life Collective's video, you will have seen a big massive busk of Fluffy just lying about, and he was on your video.
He was, and if you go back and watch the first one, you'll see a short excerpt video that Tom did, and Fluffy's in that. And I think I saw an interview where he said there's only about 3 of them knocking around. He's got one upstairs in his bedroom, his front room, which the Grim Life showed. Greg Nicotero owns one, and owns the crate, the actual crate, and that's the name of the episode, the crate. And then there's a third one knocking around, but it's in some sort of museum somewhere, I think he said. But I don't know if you know this, but the whole of this one was a homage or a head nod to the husband of Adrian Barbeau at the time, which was John Carpenter. As it was 1982, it was also The Thing was being released the same year as Creepshow. So when it zooms in on the crate, you see Carpenter and Arctic Expedition on the crate. So tying into last week's episode,
I feel like I do know that.
Yeah. So
After I hear when that happens, when someone says something like, right, do I know that? Or am I just thinking that I know that because you've just said it? But I'm sure I read somewhere that there was a nod in Creepshow to John Carpenter, but I didn't. Oh, wow. That is clever.
Yeah.
That is clever.
It's very clever. And the thing about it as well is the guy who played Billy, which is Adrian's husband, Hal Holbrook, I think is his name, just off the top of my head. He played Mark Twain in American TV when Tom was growing up. So Tom idolized him because he was the first person one of the first people he saw go through a makeup process, and it was documented in either I think it was Monsters of Filmland, the magazine that was out.
Oh, and right.
He wasn't necessarily a monster, but they did they showed how they turned Hal Holbrook from Hal to Mark Twain, and with prosthetics and things. So he was so desperate to get Hal in, he had him in the Crate episode, and he was the downtrodden husband, put it that way.
That's right, because it's the woman berating him constantly. I wanted to rip her back teeth out.
Yeah, that's John Carpenter's ex-wife. So, and she's the one who done the voice of the chess machine in The Thing as well.
That's right.
She's also in Swamp Thing, the movie. I could list her credits off for ages, but yeah, she's a fantastic actress. She really is. I would say out of all of them, I liked the Crate the best.
Yeah. I did love Leslie Nielsen's only because of watching that man act. Watching that man, hating him for that brief amount of time that he's on, like really hating him. I was like, fuck me, you've just done your job. Like, that was incredible.
I was more concerned, where the hell did he get the electric from to drive his Range Rover or his Bronco with the electric bloody cables all the way on spools out of the back of his van to plug in a telly to make Ted dance and watch his missus get drowned in the sea. It's called movie magic.
It's called movie magic. Questions we just do not answer, or questions we don't ask.
Yeah, it was just one of those. It was just weird because I think this was mid Airplane. I know people are going to kill me for this, but the police TV series
Police Academy? No.
I can see it.
Frank Drebin.
Yeah, I've gone blank. Yeah. But that anyway.
Oh my god, you know the chat's going to be like.
Look, it's 9:20 in the evening. My brain's a bit frazzled. I don't know what day it is. Yeah. We've both got animals we're looking after. Yes. What day is it? Who am I?
Where am I? Why are you here? We will skip Friday the 13th, the final chapter, because I feel we will go on another Jason tangent. No. But we will go to Day of the Dead, which is in 1985. I am literally going in order here. Right. Day of the Dead, which is 1985. Please, for the love of God, refresh my memory. Is this the bunker one?
This is, and let me get my magic book out because he goes into some depth about Day of the Dead. Where's it going? Please hold.
Please hold. You have been placed on hold.
I had it a minute ago. It's going to annoy the hell out of me.
While you hold, you may listen to some cheery elevator music. Smooth sounds of Dan from Bleeding Marvelous.
It's the one with Bub in it. Yeah, it's the one with Bub.
It's the bunker. It's the army guy, isn't it?
It's.
Oh, please tell us I'm right. I don't want to be wrong.
You might be right, because I haven't seen Day of the Dead for donkeys. I was trying to catch up on so many films, and this just didn't make the final cut of films. And I've gone completely blank. I just can't.
I thought you would know. And this is why I did not Google it. It's the guy. It's the screaming guy. The guy who we lost not long ago. This guy, that guy.
Oh, the guy that got ripped to shreds. Yes, that one. Yes, I know what you mean.
It is.
Now.
It's the bunker one. It's the army one. Yeah. It's when they're down in the bunker.
And they replicated that scene in Resident Evil.
Right.
Resident Evil as a homage.
This is where the zombies start to get some communication.
You've got Bub there.
There it is.
So,
yeah. I can. Do you know what? After Dawn of the Dead, I get very confused with the Deads because I'm kind of. I think Night of the Living Dead is the first one. Then it's Dawn of the Dead. Then it's Day of the Dead. Then it's fucking. What's the one with Thomas? Is it Thomas Jane or is it the other guy?
I think there's 5 of the Deads. That's not included in the remake. Oh, hiccup! Sorry, excuse me.
There's a lot of Deads in there. But I do like it, and I can picture it. And I can picture the zombie-like makeup in it. He learned lessons colouring wise with cameras, because obviously cameras will change as well. But as we were discussing in the first one with the coloration of the zombies and how they did not work on Dawn of the Dead, it still, to me, does not take anything away from that film, regardless of what colour they are. I still think it just adds to the intrigue and the mystery to these things we are not meant to know about.
Because this is the one where Tom did his own stunts as well, because he played the biker guy, didn't he, in this one? Was it this one?
No, it was Dawn of the Dead.
It was Dawn of the Dead.
Yeah, Dawn of the Dead. It's where
they all mush up into one, and I always forget which one's one.
Yeah.
But yeah, he broke he wasn't sure if he broke them or not, but he did the stunt where he jumped off the top of it's in the mall. Yeah, and he jumped off.
And he missed.
Yeah, his body hit the boxes, but his feet slammed down on the edge of the fountain. So he thought he fractured or broken his heels. So he had to be in a wheelchair for 2 weeks for the rest of the shoot. And so he said he did this exact same stunt 2 weeks later and nailed it because they extended the boxes. But
yeah, he took on many hats when it came to Dawn of the Dead. But Day of the Dead, the coloration of the zombie was spot on. It must be hard to determine because there is obviously a process when you pass on this when you leave this mortal coil.
Yes.
And the process of your skin changes, and you've obviously got to try and get the right balance of where you are in the decomposition, but also reanimated corpse. Like it's a hard one to break down, mine. But I think he did it well on this one. I've only seen Day of the Dead once because it wasn't my favorite, but I know a lot of people have a lot of love for it.
Yeah, I mean, this is the one where, like you say, it's where everything starts becoming a bit more human. Land of the Dead, that's another one.
Land of the Dead, that's the one.
Land of the Dead is the one where you've got Simon Pegg and Nick Frost that make cameos as zombies in. Because
yes, they do.
Romero loved the fact that Shaun of the Dead was a homage to,
Yeah, it was a thank you for not taking the piss out of a genre I have made a career in. A genre I made / a career in. He wanted to say thank you for that. That one, Land of the Dead, I do really like. Aesthetically, it looks no different than what you would find early 2000s slasheries. That kind of look, but I love John Leguizamo in it. I really love him. Is it Thomas Jane? Because I get him and someone else mixed up.
I don't honestly know off the top of my head. I
can picture him, but they got I feel like when it comes to Land of the Dead, the zombies are the coloration of them and the texture. It's texture when it comes to them. There's not a great deal. If you look at Day of the Dead, there's not a great deal of texture.
With this one, it's showing a few pictures. This is the one now. It's just completely reminded me. This is the one where they have the head and there's nothing left of the face at all. There's just the brain attached to the neck. And the whole body's twitching because it's got electrodes on it. And Tom sculpted the whole thing.
Because they're experimenting, aren't they?
But the head of the guy, it's the guy's body, a real actor's body, but they put his head under the table. So they
Right.
built the table up to here. And
He
then
likes
put
these tables.
I mean, it's a gag and it works.
Mhm.
It just works for him. But yeah, this has just reminded me. I remember exactly which exact one this was now. You know, when you just, like I say, they all
It's
blur.
come back to me. I feel like Greg Nicotero is kind of like taken everything from Dawn of the Dead and all of the other Deads and just elevated it to a whole different level. That the reason I bring him up for is because one day we will do a whole episode dedicated to the work of Greg Nicotero, because I feel like when people talk about him, they just go Walking Dead. Well, that's a pile of shit. And you need to look at the work. You need to look at the fucking detail. There's a lot.
Him and Tom were inseparable for so many years.
I can totally get that with them too. Like, I can see them being like more than like brothers. Like,
yeah, they work together. You'd see so much footage in Smoke and Mirrors as well, but in the book it also talks about how when he was doing Planet Terror, he had Greg was on set doing. Greg was the one who did all the what they referred to them as sickos instead of zombies, because they were like plague victim-y diseased people. And even Greg has a clause now where he likes to play at least one character or a background character in the movies as well. He
wants to have the makeup done. He wants the process done.
So he's had his fair share of cameos, and if you're eagle-eyed enough, a lot of people don't recognize them, but he's in a lot of films you've seen, Greg. A lot. And we'll get to one of them a bit.
We will, and we will do a proper deep dive into Greg Nicotero, because I have so much admiration for him, but it all stems from the guy we're talking about today. It all comes down to him. The next one.
Let's get it over with. Come on.
It's Texas Chainsaw 2.
Yeah.
So this is from 1987. I fucking love this film. I really do. Chop Top. Mwah. Love him.
Yeah.
Absolutely love him. Because Bill Moseley, in my eyes, can do fucking zero wrong. But
Barbara. Yeah.
if anyone knows me, I love Leatherface. I can have sympathy for Leatherface in Texas Chainsaw Massacre and try and impart that sympathy onto anyone who is willing to listen. The look of Leatherface in the first one is fucking unreal. The detail, the textures, the everything, the height, the build, it all fucking works. And then you come to Texas Chainsaw 2. What did they do?
They went to the disco.
What did they do?
They went to the disco. They had to have a night out. You know, the family don't always stay in the back end of nowhere. They like butt fucking nowhere. You know, they like to go on the town every now and again.
The look of him, Lord Dan, is horrific. That is like, it's horrific. It's not good. If you please go and Google Texas Chainsaw 2. No need. That one. Oh, I hate it so much. I really don't like it.
He said if you look closely at that mask, you'll see that it is made of many different faces. It's not one face that he's sewn back together. It is many victims' faces he's tried to put together. Hence why it looks different to the one from the first movie, because the first movie is supposed to be just one. Yeah. So.
Yeah. It's just one skin stretched along, but that's what makes it so fucking perfect. I don't know. It's just, I don't know. I do know I don't like it. I don't like the look of it because of the impact on the first one. But then I have to remember what movie this is. It's Texas Chainsaw 2. It's not meant to be fucking serious.
This is a comedy. It's, am I right in saying Toby Hooper did this one as well? I think so. I'm
going to double check that because I don't think he did. And do you pronounce it Toby? I pronounce it Tob.
I've only ever heard people call him Toby Hooper. So
I'm just reading it literally.
I could be completely wrong, but I'm
No,
pretty
no,
sure.
it's probably me. I'm just like, I feel like I've heard a lot of people call him Toby, and I'm like, well, hang on, it's just Tobe. Right. It scored 50% on Rotten Tomatoes. Yeah, and it was Toby Hooper.
Yeah.
Wow.
So hence why I think this has the comedy element to it. Because if you look at Child's Play 1, if you look at other Toby Hooper movies, if you look at what we were talking about last week with Mike and the treatment that Toby was going to give The Thing before John took it,
totally different.
I would have liked to have seen it, but it wouldn't have done well.
It wouldn't have been The Thing.
No,
it would have been something completely different. It would not have been. But again, it's one of those sliding door moments. If it had happened, we would never have known the actual John Carpenter one. We would have been none the wiser. So we couldn't sit there and go, "Oh, that one's better. That one's not." We would never have known the difference. I hate doing things like that. I'm so sorry.
But then the budget on that, they didn't have, by today's standards, they didn't have a big budget, but they did have a fairly big budget for that film in 1987.
It's all gone into the makeup. It has to have.
4.7 million their budget was for number 2. And at the box office, it only took 8 million gross. So they made 3.3 million, but that's not the kind of investment or return that the studio wants. So hence why it took a while for any more to come out. There's a bit of a wait between this one and the next one.
There's a gap. Do you know what? It's a franchise that potentially didn't need to be a franchise.
Correct.
Like, leave it at the first one. I absolutely, like, again, we'll get into this one with Joe Leatherface, and I'll probably go on the same fucking rant. Leave it alone. If you can't do, I'm really excited about the Netflix one that they brought out a couple of years ago. I was so excited. Sally Hawkins.
Yeah, I know you're not happy about that.
She was going to be in it. Fuck, she fucking killed her. Like, oh no, you had this whole like Jamie Lee moment where she was like, "Fuck yeah, I'm ready for this." No, she's dead. Get film over.
You didn't have time to sort of
take
in how she died. It was like, what the? But yeah, I mean, the one thing about Tom was, though, in this movie, he said his all-time favorite makeup was in this movie that he has ever done.
Who was it?
Grandpa. Grandpa.
He was fucking vile. He was really vile, and I loved it.
The gist of Grandpa was the guy who played him was either a Korean war vet or a Vietnam war vet. I'm not sure. He was from one of the wars, and he had these really sunken eyes. The guy who played him, he was an actor in the sense of that he had a SAG card. But he didn't really do much. It was just something, if he got a part, he wasn't, he was quite happy to play it.
It doesn't take a lot to get a SAG card. Like, you only need like a couple of lines.
I had an equity, so yeah, I know.
Yeah.
So once upon a time, a long time ago, doesn't take much. But yeah, it's he wasn't an actor. He just did things that he found interesting, and it wasn't for the money, it was just for the love. And so he went for this part. And he got it purely based on the fact that his eyes were so far set back in his head and he looked really haunted. So Tom then did the old people makeup on top. And he said that it was between the first time they ever did it was 9 hours they had Grandpa in the chair for. So imagine, And the thing was, they made him up for 3 days straight and he wasn't used on set each one of those days. 9 hours in the chair. And then spent the rest of the day sat there waiting to be filmed. Wasn't filmed. 9 hours in the chair. I mean, this isn't including probably the 3 or 4 it took to get the makeup back off again. So this was happening 3 days in a row. So Tom said to him, "Look, I'm not one to go and stir shit, but you need to tell them you need to get your scene done. If you are sat in 110 degrees outside in this weather, we're filming in the height of summer in the middle of Texas. You need to get this sorted. You need to go say something." So the guy went off and said something, and all of a sudden all of his scenes were filmed because he was getting so the sweat was starting to peel the prosthetics off. It was rotting the foam latex, and because people don't realize that sweat rots foam latex. It does something where it perishes the latex or the foam part of it. I'm not sure. I think it's probably the foam part of it.
Well, it'll be like a what's the word I'm looking for? Oh, like a reaction to the actual material.
Yeah, and it creates this horrible thing. So he was like, "This makeup's not going to last much longer if we don't get this shot done." So
Go Tom.
But
Go
he did
Grandpa.
say it's his all-time favorite, next to the helicopter decapitation scene in one of the Deads. I think it was, where the head got sliced off, but they had to cut that for the censors as well, because the censors didn't want to see it actually happen.
Was it not Dawn of the Dead? I'm just thinking rooftop helicopter.
It might have been that one.
I just shook me whole computer.
Honest.
Do you know what? I am not too sure. I did love Grandpa's makeup on this. Chop top. I feel like Rob Zombie just took one look at Bill Moseley there and went, "That's Otis." Because if you've watched House of a Thousand Corpses, Otis looks a lot like Chop Top.
In that one, yeah.
In that one, but not in Devil's Rejects. It's like, I'm sure we've talked about this before and our love of Bill Moseley, but he's a totally different Otis in Devil's Rejects, and for the fucking better, because there's so much Chop Top left in House of a Thousand Corpses. They just needed to get rid of that. Get rid of that hair. Be gone.
Did you ever have you watched In Search of Darkness, any of those?
Yes, I've watched them all. It's nearly how many hours? 4, 8, 12 hours?
Yeah, in the third one, I think it's the third one, or it could have been the second one, they interviewed Bill about number 2, and Bill said that there was a treatment for a third one to be the sequel to the second one, where Chop Top becomes a DJ. And I was like, I can believe it, but I don't want to see it. I
could sit and watch hours upon hours of him just talking shit. The man's voice Chop Top is a special creation. Didn't he do an album with Phil Alsamo from Pantera as Chop Top?
I know that Bill and Phil were actually at Spooky Empire the year I went in 2018. And it turns out, just to throw a spanner in the works, Phil's married to Meatloaf's daughter, but we'll carry on. Yeah, that one threw the shit out of me when I found that out.
What?
Yeah. Phil is married to Meatloaf's daughter. Yeah.
When we say interesting factoids on this podcast, we fucking mean it. I did not know that.
This is how my brain works. Brain farts just pop out. They just go, hello.
At least it's not me who sits there and goes, they're dead. I'm the morbid one. Yeah, you're the bright and cheery one.
Oh, in real life, no. This is all for the camera.
This is just for you folks.
Yeah. Consider yourself lucky, guys. And I will never do that again, as well, as I promise.
No, I'm not thinking.
But yeah, it's weird, because if we move on to his version of Night of the Living Dead, the 1990 remake that George gave him the green light to do.
Right.
I never realised how many people were in that when you start looking into it. Obviously you have Bill playing Barbara, they're coming to get you at the beginning.
Whoa.
You've got Bill Moseley playing him. You've got Tony Todd in the lead role, because Tony Todd turned around and he saw him at a premiere, or he was playing a part on one movie that he was doing special effects for. I can't really remember that bit, but he literally grabbed Tom Savini and shook him and said, "You need to let me read for the part. I have to read for the part." So he let...
I didn't know this existed.
Yeah. Honestly, 1990 remake of Night of the Living Dead that Tom Savini directed. It was his directorial debut, I think.
Yeah.
Bill, like I said, Bill plays the characters at the beginning.
Yeah.
Tony Todd is the main character. And it's his first ever horror movie ever that Tony Todd did. And coincidentally, if you go to my TikTok, you will see I have a video from Bill Moseley on there. I have a video from Tom Savini on there. And I also have one from Tony Todd. So that was a weird coincidence. But to this day, Tom says it's one of the worst experiences he's ever had on set because he was going through a divorce at the same time. And he couldn't focus completely on doing what he needed to do. But the weird thing about it was, if you look at the numbers, I feel very sorry for him, because if you're going up against 1968's Night of the Living Dead, right?
Yeah.
Which he couldn't work on. He was offered to work on it.
It was in Vietnam.
They had a budget of 114,000. That was it for that movie.
Right.
At the box office, it made 30.24 million. So they had a profit of 30.126 million.
Wow.
That's how much that movie made gross in the box office. So in theatre runs.
Wow.
But then you go to the 1990 remake, which wasn't released in the UK until 93. It was a 1990
I saw
the US.
I saw the release date in the UK was 93.
Bearing in mind, the original one had a 96% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Mm-hmm.
Tom's one has a 68%, which isn't on the whole bad.
Oh, it's not terrible. But if you are pitting yourself up against the original, the OG, the starting point of zombie horror, you're not going to win. Why would you pick that? Why would you pick that film?
Well, the thing was, they only had a budget. They had a hell of a budget compared to the original budget of 4.2 million. But at the box office, it only made 5.8 million. So they only made 1.6 million profit. I mean, it was in profit. But the weird thing about it was they thought Tom's name was enough to drive the success of the film. And at that point, Tom, to this day, is still one of the only special effects people to ever go on Letterman 4 times and show secrets of how he does his special effects. He burnt David Letterman as well on one of those, which I thought was quite funny. He didn't put enough of the cement. You know, they have the rubber cement they use when they light the fire.
Yeah.
They have like a rubber cement they put down, and then they have like a kind of a gel that they put on. Yeah. And Tom said when he lit he did this to David, he lit his palm on fire, and as he did, he dragged his finger across, and it sort of wiped off some of it, and it ended up burning David anyway.
Oh, well, yeah, at least he didn't burn the studio down, just his hand.
There's that. But
his hand.
He took his puppet Lizzie from Tales from the Dark Side. I think that
Tales from the Dark Side,
where Lizzie was from. Yeah. Which was odd because Lizzie ended up becoming his daughter Leah's favourite puppet. And every time she went to the studio, she'd always want to see Lizzie and talk to Lizzie and hug Lizzie.
No, she can fucking keep Lizzie. At what my brain is totally, absolutely fucking fried. I had no idea. I've seen the poster, but I don't know why my brain didn't compute, or why I can't believe he remade that film. What the fuck was he thinking? He had all the tools.
I don't think it was his idea. I think, I don't know whether it was a studio. I don't know whether George told him to do it, but.
Or do you think it was going to be done? Someone was going to do it, and George got in there first and said, "Tom, do it."
Yeah, I think so. I do think so, because I think George was of the ilk that if anybody can do it and pay it justice, it will be Tom, because he wanted Tom so badly in the first one.
Yeah.
And it wasn't a flop by all, numbers wise, yes, but it wasn't a flop. But it is one of those films where, again, like you say, leave it alone. No need.
You can't touch the original. It's a masterpiece. It's a masterpiece in cinema. It's groundbreaking. It is the starting point of, or the most famous starting point of a genre. It has so many political messages in there and so many fuck yous to a lot of people at the time of when it was made or the time of when it was set. No, you just can't go up against that film. You can't. But they tried it with Dawn of the Dead and the fucking I hate that film. Zack Snyder.
Yeah.
Don't go put it in the fucking bin.
I don't mind the film too much. In the sense of that I watch it as it's got nothing to do with the other ones. I don't even associate it with those, if you know what I mean. It's
fast zombies.
It's
fast running kid zombies.
It's a film within itself. So I just sort of, if it's on, I'll watch it because I like the gross old lady in the wheelbarrow. In the, you know, I love that bit, and the baby with the zombie baby and all that shit. I think it's just
you lost you lost me at fast running kid zombie.
But moving on to like his acting proper, like he loved to act and everything, but
yeah,
he was offered the role in Dusk Till Dawn of, you know, the guy smoking the cigar. I've gone blank on his character name, but the big guy that was smoking the cigar, that is like the big badass guy in the bar.
Yeah.
That was the role they had originally wanted him to audition for. And so Quentin and Robert sent a thing to Tom to say, right, we need you to do a video for this and read the lines. And he read the script and he hated it. So he read for Sex Machine instead. And he sent them the video of him doing Sex Machine.
It couldn't have gone to anyone better. I've just had an absolute, like, thinking of his, because moving away from his makeup now, because yes, he has so many credits going from 1988, 1987 from downwards, and Black Phone probably being the most interesting one out of a lot of them. The rest of them never fucking heard of. What I've just remembered is his character in Planet Terror. It's literally like you saw it hit me brain.
I think it's
the finger. It's the finger.
One. Yeah.
Yes.
The whole diary is in here about the whole time he was filming for that. So there's some interesting stories that he's written down there. But Dusk Till Dawn fascinates me to this day. He didn't do any of the special effects work.
Oh, really? That's a shit.
None.
That's weird.
It is
to not ask him.
But because they had him starring in it, you know, there's that scene where he sat there, and this is where he uses his bullwhip and he nicks that guy's beer, and he grabs that's Greg Nicotero with long, beautiful locks. That's Greg Nicotero that he nicks the beer off of around the table, and then Greg goes sort of for him, and then he flips out his dick gun.
You know he pitched that. Like, he had to.
I mean, that's either a Quentin job or a him job, isn't it? Let's be honest. There's only two people that could have come up with. But
well, think about it. It's probably Quentin, given that if you go to Planet Terror and his whole trouser scene incident, like he likes the trouser scene. I'm only picking that one because it's the first one that came in my head. I can't think of any others. He loves the
foot scene as well.
He does like his feet.
Tarantino.
I think from Dusk Till Dawn, it's a shocker to know that he didn't do any of the effects on there, any of the makeup on there, because it is spectacular. The transformation really of Danny Chirijo from person to vampire is incredible, but I always get a rubbery feeling when I'm watching them. Like, I don't know, it feels too like over the head mask.
Yeah, I mean,
does that make sense?
I completely understand it. I think if you look at the amount of vampires there actually are in that,
it probably is over the head masks.
Yeah, I mean, the budget was a fairly good budget for Dusk Till Dawn, because obviously they had George Clooney in it and Tarantino, and so they were just riding off the coattails of Pulp Fiction.
ER.
Well, yeah,
no, his name carried some cred, man. Like, especially after ER, like everyone wanted. He was fucking huge.
This was the first movie, I think, where he was swearing.
He had like that tattoo, like I fucking wanted that tattoo. And
thanks, George, for a million men getting that tattoo. That's what I'm going to say, George.
Cheers.
Thanks, George.
Thanks. But yeah, no, it was such a turning point. This is not Batman. This is not. I can't remember his character from ER, even though I used to watch ER. This it totally took away from that shine of good boy, and he was going to prove I'm an arsehole, and he plays arsehole so well.
Yeah, my favourite bit is where he turns around at the end and he just leaves Kate there by herself because he's like, do you know what El Rey is? It's murderers, thieves, people like me. You're not people like me. And then he just drives off in his Porsche or his Mazda MX-5 and leaves her in the dust, and she's got no dad, no brother, nobody. But, you know, and she's just standing there, Juliette Lewis, covered in gunk.
Love it.
And my favourite piece of special effects in that entire movie, though, and I know it's not a Tom thing, but is when Sex Machine turns into the big rat. I mean, that in itself as a practical effect is absolutely fucking superb. It's absolutely superb.
I know people go like, this movie is in like two halves. You've got the first half, you've got the second half, and you think to yourself, at what point, Mr. Rodriguez, did you start taking drugs? Like, at what point? But I love the aesthetic. I love when they get, is it the titty twister?
Mm-hmm.
I love when they get there. I want to know so badly what his obsession is with El Rey. This is directed to Mr. Rodriguez, because this isn't the first time you hear El Rey. Mm-hmm. El Rey is the character in Planet Terror. That's El Rey?
Yeah. It's crazy. Just I don't know whether it's apparently, obviously Robert, his name does sound Mexican and he does have Mexican heritage, Robert Rodriguez. So I don't know whether is it like a family thing or like an ongoing joke. I'm not really sure. I didn't look into it too much, I have to be honest. But
I only thought about it there when you mentioned El Rey, and I was like, hang on a minute. Hang on. He's also El Rey in that. Have you ever heard Robert Rodriguez play Spanish guitar?
Flamenco guitar.
No. He does the music for. I have such a thing for Spanish music and Mexican music. Like anything that's sang in Spanish, like I absolutely love it. Can't fucking understand it, but I do love it, which means that I absolutely adore the soundtrack to Planet Terror, Kill Bill Volume 2, which is Robert Rodriguez's work. And he plays the Spanish guitar on there, and holy shit, it's like his fingers are just like that. Oh, love it.
Now you said that, I think I've seen something about him playing a guitar, but I didn't know that he did that.
Robert Rodriguez directed some episodes of The Mandalorian, which is massive, huge. Mm-hmm. Well done to him. Like, he deserves it. It's kind of his genre, like the whole spaghetti Western kind of thing. He loves that style. And there's a video of him with Grogu, the puppet.
That's where I saw it.
And he's sitting playing guitar.
Thing?
Yeah, he's sitting playing guitar to the puppet Grogu. It's adorable.
That's where I saw it.
So cute.
He also directed Spy Kids, but I'll leave that there.
That still blows my mind, but hey.
Because it's got Danny Trejo in it.
But hey.
Still, everything comes back to Danny, because Tom said out of all the actors he's ever worked with that he's had to do a death scene with, Danny Trejo to this day is his favourite actor that plays dead, because he does it right. He said when you see someone who dies in the movie, they do these beautiful deaths where their eyes roll in the back of their head and their eyes close and they just lay there looking all peaceful. He said that's not how you die. He was like, you literally, your mouth goes slack, your jaw goes slack. He said, so what
happens to your eyes?
They stay open. And when you see Danny do any of his death scenes, he said he does the thing. He does the just slack jaw, the eyes stay open and they're looking a bit bandy. He said he is my favourite person to work with on a death scene because I don't have to do much.
It's so hard to do slack jaw because you without you knowing, you're constantly moving like this is you. This is all you. And the minute this all stops, you go. So it is difficult to do the slack jaw, but your eyes almost I think I've mentioned this quite a few times now. My pet peeve of eyes in dead scenes, they open. You can't go like that and close them because it doesn't fucking work. Because they'll literally go. But they don't like ping open because obviously the muscles all gone, but they do. It's like, you know, the dolls.
Yeah.
You know, them
Slowly
dolls
open,
that when you turn them upside down, or when you turn them the right way around in their eye, it's like that. Like they're very loose and they kind of like just sit halfway, but you can't push them down because they will just come back up again. It infuriates me. Infuriates us, and my husband hates every time I point it out when we're watching movies. I can't remember if I brought this up on this one before or on the Sunday one, but I've gone on a huge rant about it. I hate it.
But yeah, so when he was doing Planet Terror and he was going through, and you look at the cast members that are in Planet Terror, you've got Bruce Willis, you've got Josh Brolin, there's a laundry list of people that are in it.
The Robert Rodriguez's nieces, who I still fucking love to this day. The something twins. It's the two twins who are babysitting.
Yes, yeah.
And they're also in Death Wish because they walk into the bar when she's doing the striptease to, or the strip dance to Kurt Russell's character. I love them. I think they're fucking class. The fact that they survived it all at the end, I love that.
They in his journal for that, he was talking about how he had a stunt double for the first time ever doing Planet Terror, because Quentin was so worried about, and Robert was so worried about him falling on his head or hurting himself, because at that point at Planet Terror, it was a 2010, what year have you got down for that?
I don't actually, because that is something he didn't do makeup on, and I just wrote his makeup-y stuff. Hang on, I'll find out. Hang on. Me and my husband got together 2007, and I remember him buying that for me.
2009, maybe 2009. It's somewhere in that ilk, I think. I'm way off, aren't I?
2007, the year me and him got together.
There you go.
I was thinking, because I'm sure he bought that, like he bought as the double feature on DVD for Valentine's Day, and we've never done Valentine's Day, so it had to have been at the beginning.
I've got that, actually. I've got that double feature, but he... When you look at the cast lineup, sorry, my brain was just rebooting.
You could see it. You're like,
When you see the cast lineup, and you've got Rose McGowan in it, and you start going through. You've got Michael Bain in it from Aliens. You've got Bean Bain. I don't know how you say it.
You've got Michael Parks, the great Michael Parks, who plays Earl McGraw, who is like a continuation character throughout Kill Bill, Planet Terror, Death Proof.
Dust Till Dawn.
Dust Till Dawn. Yep.
Yeah, he wasn't he? He died in Dust Till Dawn though at the beginning.
Yes. Yeah. Son number one.
Yes.
Who is actually Michael Parks' real son. I love Michael, huge fan. Loved him in Tusk. You can all go and fuck off. Tusk is a brilliant film.
Tusk is a brilliant film because it is a body horror / monster movie.
Yes, it fucking is.
People watch it thinking it's going to be a Kevin Smith film. No. It's a totally different thing.
This film had me so thought-provoked for nearly 2 weeks after watching it that I thought, if you've imprinted in there for nearly 2 weeks and I can still remember it and I've only watched it once, you've made an impression. I loved what he did. It was fucking phenomenal. And Michael Parks does not get the credit he deserves from that film because he was creepy as fuck. Anyways.
He really was.
Tom Savini.
But yeah, when he was shooting Planet Terror, he had a stuntman for the first time ever, and he really didn't know how to handle it because
what did he do that deserved a stuntman? He got his finger taken.
There was this one scene where he was picked up by one of the sickos and thrown into a police car.
Is that outside of the police station where it all kicks off and he's like, my finger? Yeah,
basically. And the stuntman had to do the bit from when he left the hands of the zombie guy, turned around, and he was the one that took the impact on the car. But he fell on his head in one of the takes, and it didn't end well. The guy just kept getting up and redoing it afterwards because he didn't want to admit there was anything wrong. but they had to take him to the hospital at the end because he got himself quite ill. Because he did about 5 or 6 more redos straight
Heads
after.
head is not to be messed with.
No.
Do not mess with that noggin. It can do all sorts. I love his reaction when he loses his finger, and it's just But
that's the thing about Greg Nicotero. He was the guy who did all the special effects on Planet Terror. So
amazing.
When you see that, it explains it in there how Greg basically sellotapes Tom's finger down and then wraps it in like a weird wrap, so it keeps it there. So it's got like a silicone mold of what a finger would look like from that side, and they just squirt a load of blood on it for you to distract, and you never tend to see the inside. No,
because he does that. He like has
he's always waving his hands around. Yeah, so it was an ongoing joke.
Didn't they hand him his finger back to him? Like, is this it? Because it has these rings on it as well.
Yeah, he had the ring on. Yeah,
that film is so underrated. It is so fucking good.
I loved the what was her name? Cherry Valentine.
Cherry Valentine.
Something.
Isn't that
Cherry
a drag queen?
Wasn't it? Probably. Yeah. Oh, yes, it was. Yeah.
Cherry Darling.
R.I.P. Yeah.
Oh yes, good God. Yeah, Cherry Darling.
That was it. I knew it's something along those lines.
That opening scene with her in that dance is just, it just sets the whole film for me. And the machine good leg.
Who come up with that? I still feel like I should find Rose McGowan and say, how did you feel about that? But then I feel like she'd probably go off on a 48-hour rant about it. And I don't know whether I want to be able to. I don't know if I
feel like she's mellowed out now. She's starting to do a lot of Scream Q&A's. She's starting to mellow out a bit. But that's all just green screen prosthetics, like green screen on the leg. And I love her character in that. But I also love her character in Death Proof as well. I have a lot of respect for Rose McGowan. I really do like her. But what was I going to say? What else did he do after Death Proof?
He's done Django, obviously Django Unchained. He did. Let me see what else. He got Machete Kills. Machete.
I love that trailer.
I want to know how the hell they got Jessica Alba in that. For me, that is a weird casting. When you look at all the other people that are casting them, you've seen them in some sort of Rodriguez, Quentin.
Did Rodriguez not do Sin City?
Oh, of course he did. That would explain why then, wouldn't it? Yeah, he did. First Sin City. I don't know if he did 2. I know he did 1.
Fuck me, that like literally came out of the back of nowhere. If that is right.
He did, you're completely right, so that would explain it. But like it just seemed like a weird casting.
Oh, it's such a really weird obsession with Sin City when it came out. I just thought it was so unique and different. And like Marv, I have the Sin City graphic novels, and I have a Marv kicking about somewhere. I was fucking obsessed.
Do you know what the worst, in my opinion, Tom's worst movie was when he did Lost Boys, The Tribe.
Never seen it, never will see it, never going to see it. Not honestly, it doesn't exist.
I think it's Kiefer Sutherland's kid that plays the main part, or it might be his nephew. I don't know. The kid has got Sutherland as his surname, the main kid that's supposed to play the Michael type character.
No.
And Tom Savini plays some sort of
vampire?
I can't remember if he's like the video shop owner version, from the original. I don't know whether I've gone blank on his name for some reason. I only watched it Saturday night. I Lost Boys. I don't know why I gone blank on his name.
You watched that one, or did you watch
the original? I watched the original. I didn't watch that one. I watched The Tribe once because it had Corey Feldman in it, and I was like, oh my God, where are they going to go from here with that? And he was just some drunk in the trailer. So I was just like, right, next. And Edgar had died, and I thought, well,
what?
They killed off Edgar, and there was no explanation. You never saw it happen, to my knowledge, unless there was a film in between that and there that I don't know about.
I met him at For the Love of Horror 2019. Lovely bloke, nice bloke.
Yeah, I met Kiefer and I met Jason at Rhode Island in 2018, and that was around the time I think they'd just made up after they fell out, because they did the fallout over Julia Roberts thing.
Why?
And they held that grudge. Held that grudge for a long time.
Long time. But why?
That's a long time. I mean, she must have had a magical vagina.
She must, but I bet she doesn't. I just can't see I never understood that feud. I didn't get to meet Keith there because I'm like we've discussed before, I'm a bit of a fraidy cat, and the idea of going into a screen like that, no. But Carolyn went, and she I think, I can't remember, I think he got her original artwork, or he got a print of her original. I actually have it in my bedroom. It's such a good picture of David. But I met all the rest of them because they're out on the table. Lovely, brilliant cast, amazing people.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't met Alex Winter yet, or Billy Worth, but Billy Worth has always been at shows where I've been working, and I've never gone to see him. And obviously now knowing that he was on American Gladiators as well. So
I did. Alex Winter retweeted one of my tweets after his. No, actually, he said, "Thank you for watching my documentary." It was that whole the dark web thing, and the whole, such a good documentary. It's narrated by Keanu Reeves. It's brilliant, very fascinating, terrifying, but fascinating. But it's the camera, the camera. But yeah, when we met him at For the Love of Horror, just such a sweetheart. Had a lot of time. I was just standing with a friend, with Carolyn's brother actually, who had this beautiful graphic comic book of Lost Boys, and he had them all sign the front page, and he was just, he didn't care. Like, he didn't care we were just standing there. Like, he just talked to us. Really nice guy. It made me feel quite at ease, especially when I'm like, I'm standing in front of fucking one of the wild stallions.
But the honest to God thing about, they go into a section in Smoke and Mirrors where he talks about how conventions for a long time for him were a way of making money when he wasn't working. So when he was raising Leah, he would go out and do conventions because he could take Leah with him to conventions.
Yeah, I can get that.
It was for a good 10 years, he said that was his job. But once Leah was old enough and could sustain herself, when he starts
getting back into it.
Yeah, he started to do films again and get a bit interested in doing all that sort of thing. So when he does conventions now, he sees it as, he really enjoys it. And you see anybody interviews about Tom, and they all say, oh, when we were at this horror con with Tom, and when we were at this one with Tom. Apparently he's got a thing where he likes to start rubber band fights. So he'll sit there and he'll fire rubber bands at Danny Trejo, and then he'll start firing rubber bands at someone else. Apparently the thing about Tom is he acts like he's 12 all the time.
Yeah.
And he's 76. So
oh well, he looks good. He looks really good. Do we have any more before we start wrapping Tom Savini up? I feel personally we could come back to Tom at some point.
Yes, I do think so, because I think there's so much to gloss over because we've got a limited amount of time to fit in a lot. I mean, this is one man's career, but to put it into 3 parts, I think would bore the shit out of everybody. You know, like 1, 2, 3.
Oh no! So no. I was just thinking maybe at some point down the line, because we're always looking at a way to change things up and do things and make it more interesting, and we could totally just break something down of Tom's and just have that be the focus. But yeah,
just do like I think revisit.
I think a part 3 would be. I think it'd be a bit too much. I think we just go. I think we just go back over old ground. But yeah, have you got anything else to add to Mr. Savini before we go?
Just that I hope if I ever meet him again, I can speak English and not words that don't make any sense.
I mean, that's always good.
Yeah, I mean,
in any given situation.
This was, honest to God, I was so taken aback by him being there. Because this was at Showmasters in 2016, I'd already at this point met Neve Campbell, Michael J. Fox, Christopher Lloyd. I'd met bloody Robert England. And then I turned around and saw Tom Savini sat.
And he stops you from talking.
Sigourney Weaver I even met that year, right? And I turn around. I turn around and I see Tom Savini sitting over there. And I'd had a massive conversation with Sigourney. She'd stopped the queue because she was talking about my hair with me for ages. And then I look and I see Tom Savini and I was like, I need to go and get an autograph because I didn't even know he was going to be there. So I went over and I was like, and nothing would come out. And it was just the most atrocious noises that a human can make.
I'm laughing, but that's going to be me.
And it was like, I don't know where it comes from because, like I say, at that point in 2016, I'd met that
so
many
people. Yeah.
And not to say that Tom isn't in that wheelhouse. He's in his own wheelhouse.
Yeah. But you've got him in such a box in your head that he is so higher up than because I get it. I totally get it. I'm never going to be able to explain it properly. It's like certain people with me, who other people just don't get, and it's just because in my head they are right the way at the top, up there.
So that is my one thing. If I was to ever meet him again, I just hope I understand. I can speak English.
I mean, I hope I could just speak it all. I'm terrible when it comes to words, and I'm going to mess this ending up right now. So I'm tired, people, and I've got kitties to go and look after. So that was episode number 16 of Tom Savini Part 2. Go and check out our back catalogue, and go and check out Part 1. I mean, if you want to watch them in reverse, by all means. Don't mean nothing to us. You'll start at 1980 and you'll go back on yourself. Go and check out our other episodes. They're available on YouTube. They're available on Spotify and iTunes or anywhere else that you get your podcasts from. Next week, it's a big one. It's a massive one. It's a whole cast full of monsters. We are going monster heavy, monster deep. Literally, we are doing the Monster Squad.
Bogus.
It is. Wolfman's got nerds. Kick him in the nerds. Oh, I've just ruined me one line. We're doing Monster Squad next week. It literally has just had an anniversary, and the minute the anniversary date came up, we were like, oh, we missed a trick, and we're like, fuck that, we're still doing it.
Too right.
Absolutely. So it covers a lot. So be prepared for a lot, but it's going to be so much fun. We are on YouTube every Monday at 7:00. Thank you to everyone who joins us in the chat and who has liked, shared, and subscribed to the YouTube channel. You guys are the best. The
best around. Nothing's gonna ever be done.
What she said. So yes, thank you all, and remember, stay nerdy, everyone. Bye-bye.